Hey everyone, it's time for the Shorty Shootout, round 2. We have the Cobra King LTD in 8.5 degrees, hosel set to the standard draw position. We have the Titleist TS4, standard lie, upright draw position, A2 on the hosel. The Cobra is in a Project X hazardous smoke green 70 X Flex shaft with a Golf Pride CP2 Pro mid-size grip. The Titleist is in a Project X hazardous red 75 X Flex shaft with a Golf Pride CP2 Pro mid-size grip. Both drivers are in a total playing length package of 42 inches. Swing weights for the Cobra and the Titleist are B8 and B9 respectively. Here are the spec sheets for both the Cobra and the Titleist drivers. Both heads are 8.5 degrees static loft, so it's an apples to apples test. And both have the hosels set to the upright lie draw position. Shorter drivers tend to sit a little bit flatter than intended, so when I have the option to move them upright with the hosel, I do so. Additionally, both are at the same exact playing length and both have very similar swing weights at B8 and B9 respectively. This should be a pretty even test, as both these driver head models are known for being particularly low launching and low spinning. All right, we're going to start off our range session tonight with a shorter than driver club before moving into warming up with both of the drivers that will be part of tonight's test. As always, I will show every single swing from the warm-up to the data collection swings throughout the video. Additionally, I will move on to the yellow balls before I start collecting data. Those yellow balls are Strixon Z-Star XV balls, which should be much better than the white range balls for data. And now moving on to the King LTD Pro warm-up session. And a quick warm-up with the TS4. I'm not sure if it comes across on video, but the sound of the TS4 was a lot more solid than the LTD Pro. It sounded as though each strike was just a little bit higher quality. And now moving on to the data collection swings with the LTD Pro and the yellow balls. I will say right off the bat that this first set of 6 swings was rough. There were several dead pulls, and I just did not have a whole lot of confidence over the club, despite the 460cc head. And that lack of confidence really showed up here with some really terrible shots. I pulled one and I topped one. So I removed both those from the data, and this is the average data for the acceptable shots. And now over to the TS4 for some data collection. Totally the opposite of the LTD Pro. I felt very confident over the club, even though the head size was smaller. Every time I made contact with the ball, it felt super solid and was really reassuring. And now the data for the TS4. I was able to keep all 6 shots, and we had some of the highest average ball speeds that we've had so far during the Shorty testing. And now the second round of data collection for the LTD Pro. This one was the polar opposite of the first round of testing. I felt that every swing I put on the club was at least decent, and there was actually some really high ball speed shots in this round. So I think I put a much better showing on for the LTD Pro this second round. And here are the final 6 shots for the LTD Pro. All the shots were at least acceptable, but I decided to remove one shot as it had much lower than average ball speed. You'll see removing that shot bumped the ball speed up to 154 miles an hour, which is the highest we've seen yet in this testing. That said, taking a look at all the shots I put on the LTD Pro, you'll notice that there's a pretty stark lack of consistency, and my confidence over the club wasn't necessarily the level I'd like it to be for a short driver. And now the final 6 shots with the TS4. Exact opposite of the LTD Pro, which started poorly and went a lot better. The second set of shots were just terrible with the TS4. That one was so bad I actually staggered myself. It was just truly awful. So this is sort of just another indication of the risks you take playing a driver that is known for being much less forgiving. And here are the data for that second set of shots. You'll notice I topped one so poorly it didn't even get out to 150 yards. So we're going to go ahead and remove that shot and get a better idea of the average. Even with the decent shots, the ball speed was down, which is pretty indicative of a lack of forgiveness. Here are all the shots for the TS4 together. The dispersion is actually probably better than the Cobra, but still I wouldn't call that dispersion great. It looks like a bouquet of flowers. All right, now let's take a look at the results between the Cobra LTD Pro on the left and the Titleist TS4 on the right. No real surprise here. Overall, both these clubs were somewhat unforgiving. The Cobra LTD Pro is known as being a particularly low launching and low spinning club, at least when it came to the launch and the dispersion or lack of stability due to lower spin. That was very apparent to me. Similarly, the Titleist TS4 was also quite low launching, though not quite as extreme as the Cobra, and it was also fairly unforgiving. Looking at the ball speeds, you'll see that the Cobra slightly edged out the Titleist with 152 miles per hour average ball speed to the Titleist's 151 miles per hour average ball speed. That said, these averages were greatly brought down by the fact that on poor strikes, the ball speed retention was terrible for both drivers. On one shot with the Cobra, I managed 158 miles per hour ball speed without trying to swing any harder, and the Titleist was able to manage 157 on multiple shots. Subjectively, looking down at the club, there's not a whole lot you can do to beat the TS4. It is compact, it is sleek, it has a really classic shape, and it's really just a pleasure to look down on. I'd love to look down on that driver every single day. The Cobra was fairly traditional. It was a bigger looking head, but it is starting to show its age. It's multiple generations old, so it doesn't quite look as modern as some of the other clubs in this test. Confidence level is where both these drivers took a massive hit. With the Cobra, I was very concerned about being able to put anything in the fairway. Even when I hit the ball in the middle of the club, the sound wasn't great and the feel wasn't great. So I wasn't even reassured by the feeling of a nice solid strike with the Cobra. It was always going to be a coin flip whether or not it was a good shot. The TS4 was a little bit better with that. The sound was much more powerful. It felt and sounded much hotter despite having a slightly lower ball speed. At the same time, when you did hit the ball somewhere near the center of the face, it felt amazing, and the ball went exactly where you expected it to go. So there was a slightly higher level of confidence with the TS4, despite the head size being so much smaller than the Cobra. When it came to the results on good strikes, the TS4 would win every day of the week, despite the fact that the Cobra gave slightly superior numbers with ball speed. Finally, we'll give these drivers an overall grade. Neither of them, I think, are going to be among the most reliable or the most confidence-inspiring clubs. Especially with a 42-inch driver, the entire purpose of the club is to be automatic and to be easy. And neither of these would qualify as automatic or easy. The Titleist TS4 was a lot of fun to hit, and it's a club that I'd love to take out on the course when the stakes don't matter. Because of that, and because of the fact that it's a nicer looking club and has a much nicer sound, I'm giving the Titleist TS4 a grade of B, which is slightly higher than the Cobra's grade of a B-. Therefore, the Titleist TS4 wins this round.